The Car Dealer podcast is sponsored by Autotrader. John, have you ever wondered why I, along with 14,000 other dealers, choose to partner with Autotrader?
Well, actually,
I didn't think so. I'll tell you anyway. With more than 84 million consumer visits every month, it connects us with more engaged car buyers and delivers more deals than anyone else in the UK. And now, with the launch of Buying Signals, we'll have brand new insights on every deal, showing how likely a customer is to buy the car they're interested in. Plus, as someone who set out to use AI and data as much as possible in my business, I've found their technology, data and tools genuinely invaluable. But when I do get stuck,
which is, let's face it, most of the time,
Autotrader is always on hand and committed to supporting us to get the very best from our package. To find out how they can help you, visit trade.autotrader.co.uk.
Welcome back to the Car Dealer podcast, where we pick our favourite stories of the week and ask an industry guest to choose which were the best. I'm John Ray, and joining me this week, live from the NADA show floor, as you'll see if you're watching this on YouTube, is James Baggott. There he is.
Hello, John. How are you?
Hello. This is the nearest we've ever been recording a podcast.
It's quite good, isn't it? It's very nice of the GardX team and Xpel to let us be on their stand. We should give them a mention, shouldn't we? Because we are in the middle of the NADA show, recording the podcast on a stand, which is a little bit strange, isn't it?
Yes, and there might be a live product demonstration happening behind us as well.
Which will be good for those people watching on YouTube, not so much those people on Spotify, so sorry about that.
It's very true. Anyway, I should introduce our guest, rather than leaving him sat here in the middle. So another fellow Brit here in Vegas. It's, of course, James Leese from AI provider Impel. James, thanks for joining us.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you for the invite.
Nice to see you.
Sorry if I sound a bit croaky, but it's been a long week.
Well, we are in Vegas, aren't we? So you can imagine
Indeed.
there's been some interesting parties for people to attend. I think, John, we should probably, just for those people listening and not watching, just give them a sort of idea of the scale of this show. We're currently sat in the West Hall. There's two halls here for the Expo. It's been open for 2.5 days. This is the last hour or so, I think, of the show, but it's been incredibly busy. It feels to me like a motor show, really.
Yeah.
It is huge, isn't it? I mean, some of the stands are absolutely massive. I hate to think how much they've cost to put together. I'm sure James knows, actually. But I hate to think how much they've cost. It really is a place for the motor trade in the US to attend every year and get a good idea of what's happening, isn't it? And I've enjoyed walking around. What's been your take on just the expo halls, really?
Well, there's been a lot of AI.
Hence James being here.
Of course, yeah, none of them as good as yours, James.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, a lot of AI stuff here, as you might expect. Strangely, a lot of car washes in this.
Yeah, I've got lots of pictures on my phone of you just stroking car washes, John.
Well, you know, when there's a spinny, rotatey thing, you don't normally get the opportunity to see what it's doing to my paintwork. Yeah, a lot of that, incredible amount of stuff that's mind-blowing for us because it's very American-focused. You know, a lot of providers of big American truck parts and all these sort of lifted trucks. There's been a lot of talks as well we've gone to, a lot of workshops and things like that, which I think some have been more useful than others because some are tailored more to Americans, as we say. But it's been interesting to see and hear the different challenges that people have here compared to the challenges we have across the pond over in the UK. Some of them very similar, some of them quite different.
James, you've obviously been on the Impel stand, haven't you, for the
Yes.
last couple of days, and you've been chatting to there's a lot of British dealers here, isn't there?
There is a very good contingent turned up, yes.
What has been your take from those dealers you've been chatting to? I mean, the Brits first, because I'm interested to hear what you've heard from the Americans too. But what have they been saying to you? What about the show? What have they learned?
Actually, a lot of the dealers that are here come every year, and they come every year for a reason. The reason is there's nothing else like this in the world. To get the opportunity to see all of these businesses, and a lot of them are global businesses, a lot of them are US focused, but to come and see what's happening in this market is a great opportunity for those dealers. So I think what they'll gain from coming to something like NADA is to see, especially the technology. I think car washes are nice, but they're probably not here to see the car washes. It's more about, what are the dealers using in the US? What's the technology look like? You talk about AI. Last year, again, AI was a topic, but this year you're now seeing that the AI, and people are coming with stories on actually what it's delivered and the return on investment now, so it's a different conversation. So dealers get that opportunity to spend time here, understanding about the products and seeing what US dealers are doing. I think what's interesting, you would have noticed this, that as you walk around, if you've got international on your badge, a lot of the businesses here actually won't talk to you because they're so focused on their local market, which is understandable. But there are more businesses that are now looking at international, especially with SaaS and the ability to be global. So I think dealers get a lot out of coming here and seeing those businesses and how they operate and the products that they've got available.
What's amazed me about the show is that firstly the amount of people here, and if you go to trade shows in the UK, it doesn't matter what industry it is, people are more just browsing. Here they're really doing deals, aren't they? There are people signing up for very, very big deals on stands like yours and some of the other big ones here.
Absolutely.
That's normal, isn't it, Ovi?
Yeah, I mean, this traditionally is somewhere where, I worked for Cox Automotive for 16 years, but they call it the Cox Automotive Village here because it's so big. But these businesses will be writing anything up to 20-25% their annual revenue will be written in show because the dealers are here to do deals. And when you think about that and you think about some of the sort of events we have in the UK, and that doesn't happen, but the US is so vast, to have the opportunity to come to one place and see all your potential partners negotiate deals is an opportunity they can't refuse. So yeah, as Impel, as you've seen, our stand's been absolutely rammed this week again, and lots of dealers, come there to do the deals, sign the deals, they get an offer maybe. So it's a very important show for the US market.
I want to touch on AI because it is a theme absolutely running throughout this show, isn't it? I mean, you can't, if I had £1 for every time I've heard AI, I would have made a lot of money on the gambling tables in Vegas. I mean, it is everywhere. I mean, I can see it across the way from where we just stood now. It does feel to me a little bit, James, and some of the dealers I've spoken to have said the same thing, that it is a bit of a gold rush at the moment, and there are so many different platforms out there. You're obviously selling one, so you are going to be slightly biased, but what do dealers need to be looking for when it comes to choosing an AI solution? What is the most important? Because here, it will do voice, it will do answering text messages, it will answer emails, it'll help you book services.
Absolutely.
Where should people look for first? For those UK listeners, what should they be looking at?
I think it's a similar conversation we always have, and we say to people, well, first of all, AI, it's 2 letters, and it's at the end of the day, it's technology. It's very good technology, and it is absolutely making waves and the capabilities that it can deliver. But it is just technology. And with any form of technology you bring into a business, whether that's a CRM system, a DMS system, you have to take the time to make sure you implement it and onboard it correctly. So I suppose the first thing would be, what are your pain points? Because we always say you can find the next shiny thing, but is actually solving a problem in your business. So what's the pain point you want to deal with, whether it is warranties, whether it's lead management, nurturing, whatever it may be, then go look for that supplier. And then when you find the supplier, then have a conversation with them to understand their methodology, how they work with their customers. I mean, we talk about a 50-50 approach in the UK, which is 50% is about the technology, and it's good technology, you need good technology, but the other 50% is how you implement it, onboard it, and that's about the people that help you do that in your business. So spending time in the dealerships, talking to them the way that the system's going to work so they understand, because in some instances, not all, but in some, especially in lead nurturing, it can change fundamentally the way you operate and how your salespeople manage those leads and inquiries. So you've got to take the time.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of dealers I'm talking to who said they've been to all of the different stands and they've really struggled to compare them. There's a lot of people out there doing AI, but it's about understanding which bits they need. If you were running a dealership, what would be the first thing that you would, where would be the first place you implemented AI? And I'm talking dealerships of all sizes, the smaller ones all the way up to the large group.
I think, great question. And I would go back to that point about understanding where your pain points are. There's no point in trying to bring something into your business where you feel that actually the problem isn't there, there's nothing to fix. Because some people would just go chasing, I need voice. We hear it a lot. Voice is the big one right now. Everyone talks about voice. but okay, where do you want to deploy voice and for what reason? Because we've seen lots of examples, and you talk about, a bit like the Wild West. There's AI everywhere. It's all over, but actually, when you start looking at it, and someone goes, "Well, I'll just put voice into my service area." Okay, well, why are you doing that? And can the voice get to the data? Because this is another big conversation all the time. The technology is great, but if it can't get to the data to have the right conversation, the right outputs, then all it's potentially going to do is just shift that problem further down the process. So I think for a dealer, it's just understanding your own business, working out where you feel that there is a place for AI to be deployed, finding the right partner, and then maybe go play, go. And that's easy to say, isn't it? If you're going to bring in a brand new system that's big, you can't necessarily play, but pick those points. So things like lead nurturing is a good example. Chat is another one we talk about a lot on the website, but that is again moving really quickly. So the chat solutions we've seen in the last few years are now all very, very much out of date, and now you're starting to get into agentic search. So I think pick your spot. We say to a lot of smaller dealers, even with things like ChatGPT, they're using ChatGPT. Well, play with it, see what it's quite capable of, but also remember that actually your data, you need to make sure it's secure. So get yourself a business account and then go play.
We, John and I went to a session on the first day about AI, and they had 2 dealers on there and a couple of training experts, didn't they? And we listened to the session. It was absolutely packed, wasn't it? And there must have been 300 or 400 people in this auditorium. And I came away from it, and I wrote a story for the website this week, and I'm on the headline looking at it now. Does anyone really know what they're doing when it comes to using AI? We've come to the US, and often people come to this show to learn stuff that's not happening in the UK, and it still feels like, to me, from that session, that I got the feeling that people still don't know what to do with AI. It feels like we've moved on. They were talking about, like you said, last year, but they're still really testing now. No one's actually come up with this is where it works the best.
Well, I think there's lots of good cases that show where AI has actually absolutely made a difference to their business, either UK or US. I think the technology is moving at such a pace that by the point you get to somewhere and go, oh, this is working really well, actually the next iteration's there and it keeps moving. So I think there's always this bit where people step into it and go, yeah, I'm on the journey with AI, and then something new comes out and the new version of it, and agentic is out now as well. So I think there probably is always that feeling of, where's the end point? When do we sit there and go, this has been really successful? And that's not the space we're in. This will continue to evolve and develop. We're still really at the beginning of the capabilities of what the technology can deliver. So you will always see that line that people are looking for, what's the return on investment? It will keep moving.
Yeah. John, from that session that we went to, there was some things like, one of the pieces of advice was make sure people are using ChatGPT. It wasn't exactly the most insightful, was it?
No, and I suppose none of the people on that panel were from AI firms, were they? So it was, as you say, dealers and training people, really. I thought it was quite... One of the examples was to say to your sales team, type into ChatGPT, I want to go and buy a Toyota at your Toyota dealership. Who's the best salesperson? And if it comes back with someone that isn't you as the salesperson, why not? Go and reverse engineer it and find out why, and try and... It's very much like trying to understand how it all works still, isn't it?
Yeah, I did find that bit interesting. It was the kind of, I think someone said it's like the start of SEO, whereas before it was about surfacing yourself in Google. Now, these days, it's about working out how to surface yourself in ChatGPT, and it's, nobody really knows, do they?
No, and that's a really good point. I was chatting to my wife, and phoning back home, and just, we were talking about something, I can't remember what it was she was looking at, but she's using ChatGPT for what you would have traditionally used Google for now. So you're absolutely right. So yeah, go find out what it says about your business, and then just make sure any social you're putting out there, your website, whatever, has got the right information on it, because that's where it's gaining its data and insight. And obviously it will learn from when people are typing in their queries and questions, and I think we've said it before, where you have to be careful, because someone goes and puts in a load of potentially confidential information to help them build out a report or something they're writing. Now that information is out in the World Wide Web, so you need to just be mindful of that. But yeah, go find out, see what ChatGPT is saying about your business.
The other one that it said was customers are now using ChatGPT. Well, they are using it as they would use Google, but it does so much more, doesn't it? So customers are saying, how do I get, find me this car, firstly. Secondly, how do I get the best deal? How much should I be paying for this? What are the things I should be saying to the salesperson? All this sort of stuff. So if you're the salesperson, you need to be in there getting an idea of what customers are going to come in and speak to you about and how they're going to address you and how they think the sales process is going to work. It's so broad, isn't it?
It is, and I laugh only because you think about now I'm having a conversation with technology about how I should have a conversation with a human, and that's crazy. But that's the world we're living in. But we go back to it's still about relationships. So they're typing in how should I have a conversation, how should I negotiate? Well, that still requires human-to-human interaction. So the technology is great, but we still need humans within that, and getting the balance between the two is where you get your benefit.
One of the things I did find interesting in this panel on AI that we've mentioned in the story on Car Dealer magazine was that there's this Hyundai Genesis dealer who has implemented AI tech throughout his business. He's really been testing it, and he was talking about some of the learning points that he's had. And one of the things he said is, this is not magic. These are tools, and I thought that was an interesting point. But the thing he said was so important for him was getting his team on board and making them understand that firstly, it's not there to replace their jobs. It's there to help them do their jobs better. And I suppose that's an important thing, because there's a lot of people out there at the moment that are worried that AI is just going to steal their jobs.
Absolutely. And then I go back to the 50 tech, 50 about the people, about bringing people on that journey. So a good example is, and so when we sit with our customers, we actually build out personas of the AI. So you treat it as another member of the team. So you'll go into some of these dealerships, customers of ours, and they'll have a poster on the wall of Fiona, Tracy, whatever the name may be, and it will say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing for you. So when you're sleeping, I'm nurturing the customers, I'm doing these things. So I'm doing all of this for you, now just make sure you can do this for me. And it becomes a member of the team. And if you treat it that way, it's the same as talk to business owners, and they talk about AI and what we need to go, but think of it as another member of your sales team. It still needs to be trained, it still needs to have the right information, but the beauty is when you give it the information, it doesn't forget, and it will repeatedly use that information, doesn't make spelling mistakes, all of those things. But you're absolutely right, you have to bring people on that journey. And once they see this and they think, well, actually now the AI is doing all the jobs I don't enjoy doing, and I can now do the bits I do enjoy doing, spending more time with customers, whatever it may be, then you get buy-in, and then you really start seeing the value out of the technology.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it's helped across my business. The Clever Car Collection, we've tried to use AI to free up our time to look after the customers better. And I think if you do look at it that way, it's a much more useful tool. Yeah. When it comes to these next steps then, James, the AI is developing incredibly quickly. We've seen that here. We've been talking for a long time. We've watched the Impel business develop. What are you most excited about next? I mean, what do you think it's going to be able to do that's really going to help dealers next?
I think people talk a lot about agentic. And agentic, when you can start getting to that world of training agents to do individual tasks, whereas it's a very generic type technology at the moment, that's where it gets exciting, whether you can start programming these agents to go off and do specific tasks for you, and then those agents start learning as well as they go on that journey and go, well, that one I didn't quite get the result I was thinking of or what we wanted, so I'm going to try a different journey. I think that, again, as the technology moves forward, adds another layer of complexity or challenge to businesses, because now you're going to potentially be looking at roles inside those businesses that you just don't have today. So how many dealerships have prompt engineers or people that can write prompts? Now, we all sit there in ChatGPT and we write things, and that's really what we're writing is a prompt. When you start talking about training agentic agents, you now need to start talking about, so as an example, again, I use lead nurturing because that's the area I work in. But it is now if someone submits a new car lead from a specific manufacturer, I now want you to communicate it within a certain way. Whereas if it's a used car lead, I want you to communicate in a different way. Well, that's training people. Now I could sit here and have a conversation with you and John and say, right, James, this is the way I want you to speak about a BMW customer, this is a used car customer. I've got to do the same with the technology. So having that skill set to sit there and write prompts and then just understand, that one didn't quite work, or monitoring the data to see we're seeing lots of engagement on conversations, but can we get it better? I need to tweak that prompt. So those are some of the things where I get really excited about what the capabilities are going to be. but it means that we need to spend more time training and working with our customers.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the a visit that John and I did this week. We went to see a couple of dealers early on this week, and I know that you've been talking to lots of them this week too. So I'll be interested to get your take on it. But what I was amazed about, so John and I went to see firstly CarMax, which they are the biggest seller of used cars here. They had a very big dealership, didn't they, just down the road in Las Vegas.
I think as they go, it was a relatively small one for them, but for us it was big.
Still had 1,000 cars in stock, didn't it?
Yeah.
They sold well over 250 cars this week. And we had a little bit of a tour of that facility, didn't we? They had 60 sales staff. And it's the way that they do business that I found fascinating. It's so fast-paced here. Firstly, he was saying that the cars that they brought in, from the minute they arrived on the site to the point in time they were sold to a new customer, the maximum was 7 days, or the average was 7 days. A 7-day turnaround for stock was incredible, and it was the pace at which they do those deals. He said some customers will come in and they will be driving away within 30 minutes. I mean, it was an amazing setup, John, wasn't it? I mean, it really was incredible. And he was the other part of that CarMax business. I just didn't realise the scale of it. They're a listed business over here. They sell 1.3 million cars a year. So they have got huge scale when it comes to selling and buying. So they're sucking up huge amounts of stock. And it was just the professionalism with which they do it, which sounds a weird thing to say. You'd think all dealers would be professional, but they have really got the processes nailed, haven't they?
Well, it was there was a lot of eye-opening things in our 15-minute visit. Really, we whizzed through it all, didn't we? One is, did the owner of that particular one say, people turn up with a car and will pretty much buy whatever, anything?
Yes.
Because even if it's not right for that particular site, they don't really decide. He is the dealer principal, or whatever you want to call it, of that. He doesn't really care what he's buying, because ultimately he will put the details into the CarMax mega computer, and CarMax head office in Virginia or whatever will decide what the price for that car is, where the best place for it to go is. So an example, the States is enormous, as we know, and it's very we talk about the UK and saying 4x4s sell better up north or whatever. You imagine that in America, if you trade in a Subaru to CarMax in Vegas, it's not going to stay in Vegas. It's going to immediately be on a transporter up to Oregon or New York or wherever you need four-wheel drive. So they're very on all that sort of stuff. It's just amazing, really, the level of control that head office has over the operation. But it seems to work, doesn't it? And the turnaround from, as you say, here's a car with a few dents in it, it's arrived, 7 days later it's sold.
It was
including reconditioning.
It was that We Buy Any Car model that they've got built in within their business, isn't they? They said 60% of the stock that they have across the business is brought to them by customers. That is a huge difference to the UK. They've plugged in that We Buy Any Car model into the retail side. It sort of reminded me of the Constellation Group, but just a very successful version of it.
Yeah, and I think similarly, in the way that, let's say, many dealers in the UK are not that fond of We Buy Any Car, a lot of franchise dealers over here not a fan of CarMax. But even in the second visit, which we'll come on to, we visited a franchise dealer who said basically sometimes he will have to get rid of trade-ins through CarMax because they offer the best price, more than he could, offer in terms of selling that vehicle. So it's sort of...
They were wholesaling cars from that dealership as well, weren't they? So It wasn't just a case of sending them off to auction. They had an auction platform online.
Well, they have their own auctions, basically.
And then the dealers were picking them up from the same site, just as much as the consumers. James, have you come across these CarMax sites at all? Have you done any visits while you've been out here?
I've not had time to do visits. We've been so busy on the stand. But in previous years, yes, absolutely, I've visited these sites, and they are a sight to behold. And you're absolutely right, it's the process that is critical. They've got so much scale, they need that process. And when they get that right, and then you bring in the technology side of it that helps them with efficiencies, and normal dealers don't have the ability to do that because they don't have that scale. So, but it is you look in awe of actually, and it is like a factory.
Have you listened into any of the pitches your American colleagues are doing to the American dealers? What is it the same pain points that they're having to us in the UK?
Yeah, no, it's very similar. You have dealers that are way ahead of the curve, that are very engaged and have brought technology into their business, AI technology, several years ago, and are now continue to evolve and develop, and actually are helping businesses such as Impel develop that next product. What have we dealt with that pain point? What's the next one? And keep going on that. And then you've got many other dealers that haven't ventured into the world of AI and now going, okay, where do I start? I see a lot more about it. So you've got this real mix. I think, again, come back next year, it'll be different again, because now probably everyone will be using AI, but there'll be different, some at the start of the journey and some still very much at the forefront. So, but when it comes to the conversations, you hear that happen, and it's not just at the Impel stand, it's all the other stands around us. It's a very different way. I keep saying to my US colleagues, because I say, hey, we'd love to come over to the UK, and I'm going, I put you in front of a UK dealer, you'll be out the door as quick as you like. Their approach is very, very different. It's very direct, it's very, you want to make your business better, this is what you need. It's those sorts of conversations. But they have the same pain points, absolutely, and are going on the same journey. Some of those will be asking the same question as you had in some of the events you went to earlier this week. Where do we start? So they're still having that, even though UK dealers will come over here and look at the tech and go, the US are several years in front of where we are in the UK. They're still dealers, still at the very start of that journey, not understanding or thinking about where they need to start.
The second visit we did was to, as John mentioned, was a franchise main dealer, a Honda dealer called Findlay Honda. So it's in the Henderson area, so it's just south of Las Vegas.
Yeah, take the I-5, go 300
Thanks, John.
yards.
Thanks. Good traffic at the moment. Yeah, it was an amazing business too. I mean, what struck me there was this is a huge Honda dealer, which sounds quite strange when you're in the UK. It doesn't really exist. This was a dealer that had 600 Hondas in stock, and then the new car business is very similar to the used car business. These customers turn up and expect to drive these cars away, whether they're new or used. So they've got these cars, the new cars in stock. It's all about the inventory on the ground. There's no such thing really as buying to order, which was, I find that, I knew that in the past, but actually seeing it there, it taking effect in that dealership, it strikes you, doesn't it? Because there are, you want a CRV, you can choose from 100. It was strange, wasn't it, that? But we had some time with the dealer principal there, and he was very candid, wasn't he, about the pain points that this business is struggling. And
Hope he knows we're about to quote him on.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I've quoted him in my Substack, so unfortunately it's already out there. But no, he was talking about some of the pain points that the American automotive industry is feeling, and it felt very similar to the UK. It's affordability was a big one. He was talking about the way that after COVID they really made hay, and he said they sold some fantastic numbers of cars because demand was well outstripping supply, and now it's gone the other way. And they're having these awkward conversations. He said a lot of people were in negative equity. And the bit that struck me was how much people pay for new cars over here. The average price, he said, monthly payment for a new car over here was $1,000, which it equates to £730. I mean, that is a lot of money. I mean, I know it cost us £8.50 for a coffee from Starbucks this morning, John, but that really is a lot of money for a new car, isn't it?
Yeah, incredible. We're not talking, I mean, that's for a CRV or an Accord or something like that. He wasn't talking high-end stuff. And I think, generally speaking, the cars themselves, list price, are cheaper than what we would get them for as well. So
We'll be right back. Running a dealership means making hundreds of decisions every day. But James, when do you get the time to step back and think?
Well, John, I don't. But this is exactly what Car Dealer Live is for. On March the 19th, at the British Motor Museum in Gaydon, the UK's car dealers, manufacturers and suppliers will come together to learn what's actually working right now. You'll hear from dealers who've built great businesses and exclusive research from headline sponsors Auto Trader, as well as Google, Motorway, Cox Automotive, Keyloop and Impel. We'll be tackling the big questions like how buyers are really using AI, what Chinese challenger brands mean for your forecourt, and how the best dealers are growing faster than anyone else.
Maybe you'll actually learn something, James.
Bit rude, John, but you're probably right. Car Dealer Live is sponsored by Auto Trader and takes place on March the 19th at the British Motor Museum. Tickets are available now at cardealerlive.co.uk. Now, a quick word from one of our sponsors.
Attention car dealer podcast listeners. Do you want a better, quicker, more profitable way of trading out of your part exchanges or overage stock? List your cars on Dealerway today and connect with over 3,000 vetted trade buyers actively looking for vehicles. No hidden fees, no hassle. Start your own custom auctions from your desk or the palm of your hand in our game-changing app, or advertise your stock on quick, easy, buy it now listings to our eager buyers who are waiting to quickly acquire vehicles. What are you waiting for? Join Dealerway today at dealerway.co.uk and streamline your disposals.
John, have you ever wondered why I, along with 14,000 other dealers, choose to partner with AutoTrader?
Well, actually,
I didn't think so. I'll tell you anyway. With more than 84 million consumer visits every month, it connects us with more engaged car buyers and delivers more deals than anyone else in the UK. And now, with the launch of Buying Signals, we'll have brand new insights on every deal, showing how likely a customer is to buy the car they're interested in. Plus, as someone who set out to use AI and data as much as possible in my business, I've found their technology, data and tools genuinely invaluable. But when I do get stuck,
which is, let's face it, most of the time,
AutoTrader is always on hand and committed to supporting us to get the very best from our package. To find out how they can help you, visit trade.autotrader.co.uk. Now, back to the podcast. I think probably let's move on to our stories, because we're sort of slightly getting there, aren't we?
We're cannibalising them, and we are halfway through. So James and I are going to run through our favourite stories of the week, as usual, and at the end, James gets to decide which one of us chose the best ones and who's the winner. James won last week, apparently, so off you go.
Thank you, John. So I'm going to just continue on this theme of the things that we picked up, and I'll continue with that Honda dealer, because one of the things we started talking about while we were there was Chinese cars, and it's been a big topic, just like AI out here. The Chinese manufacturers has come up a lot in conversations I've had with the Americans here, and also just the Brits have come over here and been surprised not to see any. So, firstly, that Honda dealer, we asked him, what do you think of the Chinese manufacturers? Do you think they'll be accepted here, firstly? And he was explaining how they've come with 100% tariffs over here, so they're incredibly expensive. Well, sorry, if 100% tariff does make them more expensive than they would be in the UK, but still would be very good value here compared to pretty much stuff he was selling at his Honda dealership. He said he'd seen quite a lot of them when he'd been on holiday, like the BYDs he was talking about. I've seen those BYDs when I've been on holiday. They look amazing cars. But he was saying he hopes that they don't come here, because he actually does think the Americans would buy them. And so we had that conversation early on, and then we ended up picking up a conversation that was in one of the sessions from the NADA chairman, Mike Stanton, I think his name is. CEO, thank you. And I mean, he was very forceful about this topic, asked about it. He said that effectively he would back blocking these Chinese manufacturers coming to America. His quotes were incredibly strong. He said they're bad for the country and bad for the industry, and he wants to keep the Chinese car makers out. And he said 95% of the car dealers here back that same thought process, which I thought was what struck me with that, John, is it's the sort of lobbying over here is far stronger, isn't it? Can you imagine any groups in the UK, any dealers getting together and saying, no, we're going to block the Chinese? We've welcomed them with open arms. Yeah. It's very different how that translates across the pond here.
Well, yeah, and you can see the scale of. Well, I mean, this is the NADA conference. I mean, what's our equivalent of the NADA, National Automotive Dealers Association? Probably the NFDA. I don't see an NFDA conference quite like this. I don't know about you, James. And everywhere you go in this set of 4 buildings, there's in the press room, for example, there's all this signage about all this, and on their website, all this lobbying work that NADA has done to prevent things that are not in dealers' interest, whether it's to do with compliance
or agency sales style models,
all that sort of stuff. They've worked really hard to stop that stuff coming in because they've said it's not good for dealers. What I think is, this is where the difference is, isn't it, between the UK and the US? From our point of view, and when I have conversations about Chinese car makers and whether it's a threat or not, it's not a threat to the people that we talk to, because they are the people selling them, and they're struggling to sell a 50 grand crossover from a European manufacturer. They're not struggling to sell a 28 grand crossover from a Chinese manufacturer. So from that point of view, from a dealer's point of view, really Chinese cars are going pretty well in the UK. It's peculiar for us, isn't it? But we don't have the automotive industry in quite the same. We don't have a manufacturing base to the level that US does.
It was a strength of feeling that surprised me.
Yeah.
Especially from someone like this, the NADA CEO, coming out in the press saying those sorts of comments. I mean, it's he hasn't sat on the fence there, has he? He really has said what he thinks. But it's sort of opposed with that chat that we had with the Honda dealer. The consumers would buy them.
The reason they've come out with this as well, I suspect, is because last week or this week, Canada announced that they would accept a certain number of Chinese cars to come into the country tariff-free or very low tariff. So that's what has set panic stations here. Not that, quite far from Vegas, admittedly, but not far across the border. There's going to be BYDs and whatever else driving about. I suppose people are thinking, how long is it going to take before they're down here as well?
But we've met up with some American journalists, and we've covered the market here, and they are fascinated to hear what's been happening in the UK, because they're watching it from afar and they've seen how differently we've approached it. James, you must have had conversations about Chinese cars this week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of conversations, and I think the stance that they're taking doesn't surprise me. You look at the government; it starts from the top down on their approach, and they're just generally to businesses coming into the US. I think they have said about, now whether it's just a statement, just to put something out there, but if they were considering coming in and starting and building factories in the US, then maybe we'll have a different conversation. So I get their point about trying to protect the workforce, trying to protect their economy, but your point is very valid that then says, but as a consumer, actually it's what's in my back pocket and how much I have to spend, and we see that in the UK, don't we? We're seeing it right now where people are on PCPs for some premium product, they're coming back into the market, it's X amount to refund that, or I can get this brand for a lot cheaper, which actually is a pretty good car.
Yeah.
So, because I think it's tough, and people are always thinking about what's in their back pocket. So there's that whole challenge that they're going to have of the consumer pushing for cheaper vehicles, and this. So it's going to be an interesting watch.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we produced a video about Chinese cars on our YouTube channel about, I think, the week before we came out here, and I've been watching the comments. There's well over 1,000 comments on there, and it's interesting to see them fall into two camps. There's a lot of Chinese car buyers on there who say, I love my Chinese car, it's absolutely fantastic, you're stupid not to buy one. And then there's the other camp of saying, why on earth would you buy a Chinese car? You are just killing our automotive industry. Not that we've got a huge one in the UK anymore, but in Europe we certainly have. And it's just it's very opposed. You either want them or you really, really don't want them.
Yeah, absolutely, and even more so in the US. That has been the stance now with the government, is very much protect the US, protect the workforce. So actually, anyone coming into this market that isn't here and providing jobs and all of those things, it's they look at it very closely.
Yeah, you just wonder whether future governments in the UK are watching what happens here and thinking, well, we'll copy that or whatever they do in the future.
I think there's opportunities to look at tariffs. Absolutely, the cars are selling very well. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. Anyway, I'm going to park the Chinese cars, John. I'll let you do a story.
Lovely. I'm going to move on to Amazon Autos.
Oh yes, very interesting.
So we went to a little micro session on this, which was it was on a stage about the size of where we're sat now, and then I think we got there 15 minutes early to get a seat, and then 300 people descended around it. So obviously something that is of great interest to US dealers. So Amazon Autos, if you've not come across it, is sort of what it sounds like. So on Amazon.com, you can search for new and I think used cars near you. There's only a select number of dealers at the minute. So, for example, in Los Angeles, where we're heading after this, there's a couple of Hyundai dealerships, for example, are on it. So you can go and find your next Tucson, blah, 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 blah. But it's interesting for lots of reasons. One is that initially when Amazon Autos kind of came about, I think a lot of people assumed it would be direct to consumer. Amazon would start selling cars directly from car manufacturers, or maybe even launch their next used car proposition or something like that. this whole 15-minute session was largely about, we're not doing that.
Yes.
No, this is entirely an advertising model for us, and they spent a lot of time and energy explaining that was the case. So in effect, this is a marketplace for dealers in the US to start selling their cars to consumers. I think they've got a bit of a challenge on their hands over here because there's some enormous players. Car Gurus is the biggest over here, isn't it?
By some margin.
Some margin. You've got other ones like Cars.com, Autotrader.com, which of course Coxall's and Motive owns, and so on and so forth. But anyway, we cornered Steve Johnson, I think it was, who's the guy on the stage.
Yeah, that's correct.
James cornered him and said, "When are you coming to the UK?" And the answer was, well, it's not a case of if, but when. We will come to the UK. There will be markets that we're going to tackle after this. And it's very early days for Amazon here, but it is coming. And then having had a few more conversations with select sources, James.
Thank you, John. Well hidden, yep.
You've established that actually they are well on the way to getting themselves set up for the UK, with a view really to be maybe in the market by the end of this year.
That's what we heard, wasn't it? We heard that very strongly. They are having conversations with those partners that they need to facilitate that launch in the UK. Because the interesting thing is how that Amazon solution works. It's very similar to an Auto Trader deal builder, isn't it? So you'd find the car, whether be it new or used. You can work out how you are going to fund it. So you can do the finance deal. You can work out what after-sales products you want on it, be that paint protection like this, or warranties, etc. You build it, and then at the end of that point, once you've decided what you want to buy, it's sent to the dealer. So it was very, very similar to that deal builder product, wasn't it? But what I found interesting is, we're again talking to some of the automotive journalists here, is they were saying that Amazon and the dealers haven't really got on. The dealers have been very sceptical about what Amazon are planning. Are they planning a margin grab? Are they going to eventually want to take a little bit of the pie rather than just that advertising play?
Yeah, and Amazon would say, no, we're not interested in that at all. It's purely an advertising model. And I think their argument was that when you go onto Amazon, I think particularly in the UK, you search for a hairdryer, as I often do, and you'll find of the millions of billions results there are, very few of those products are actually in an Amazon. They're not Amazon stock. It's, generally speaking, another company has borrowed some of Amazon's warehouse, and it's their product they're selling. Amazon are just fulfilling it, and it's the same sort of model as that. That Amazon will take a teeny tiny slice of it in terms of, here's some advertising revenue. That's all they want to do.
Over here, they've focused on not just new, not just used. They're doing both, aren't they? Which I think, I feel if and when they come to the UK this year, which we know that they're going to be doing, I sort of think that if they went straight in with just the used car market, they would probably be a little bit more successful. I think that would probably be slightly easier to serve than that new car market.
I don't know. I think the opposite, because I think new cars are homogenised, and whether you want, as CarWow found out initially when they started, a Hyundai Tucson from every dealer across the country is identical. It doesn't really matter where you're getting it from. It's just a case of what's near and what's the price. Whereas used, as we know, every car is unique. It's a nightmare in terms of setting up a platform, if you're someone like Amazon, to explain why this particular car that's 5 miles down the road is better than the next one that's 10 miles down the road, or so on and so forth.
This story has been incredibly popular on our website this week, and you can see why. The advertising market for used cars in the UK is fraught at the moment. There has been lots of talk about Auto Trader and the other rivals to Auto Trader, like Car Gurus and Motors and Kazoo, are pushing really hard. It sort of feels to me like this is a good time for Amazon Autos to enter the UK, and if they can come up with a platform that works, I suspect they'll corner quite a bit of the market, because they've got the audience, haven't they? These other platforms have to go out there and acquire those audiences by pay-per-click or Google. Amazon have already got it. What's your take, James?
Well, I think I've been in the industry many years. There's been many examples of where big brands have suddenly said we're coming into cars.
Yeah, Tesco's,
and they haven't worked.
Yeah.
I think that also, if I think about why I feel I enjoy the Amazon experience, is because if I don't like it, I just send it back. Whether it's a partner product or not. Now, I'm not going to be doing that with cars. So then you think it is just a marketplace play. It has to be. That's all it can be. I see. But then the other side I think about, I suppose, just because the way my brain works, is actually the data they're potentially going to start learning about and be getting through the platform is going to get really interesting, because you think about all that data when you go onto Amazon right now. Hey, you might be interested in one of these. So the experience is a great experience because it's learned from all of your data. Now suddenly people are going in and start searching for cars. So there's a big data play in here as well because of the volume of them, which I think would be a really interesting point. So I think I'm a little skeptical. I'd sit back and probably say, been here before, things may be slightly different this time. So I'll keep a very open mind.
I'll tell you why I'm skeptical as well, and it's that Amazon search function. You know, like Amazon 10 years ago, it was very easy to find a product on there that was going to be all right, you know, looking for a hairdryer, whatever, a toaster. Now, it's like a flood of stuff. You know, there's millions and millions of products on there. And I don't think the search is particularly brilliant on Amazon. I think that's one of the weaker points. And when it comes to used cars, as I say, they're so unique. People want a certain price, certain number of miles, certain kit, all that stuff. I don't know if Amazon are really thinking about that properly at the moment.
But they have got very, very deep pockets, haven't they? And I think this is different when you compare them to others that have tried to enter the market. I mean, Amazon have got the expertise and the money to try and make this one work. And I think that's what the dealers are excited about.
Yeah, and I suppose for a consumer, if suddenly you look at, I use Amazon a lot, and if I could have that same experience of buying a car, but it will never happen. You'll never get to a point of, I'm going to order 2 of those and I'll send one back because I don't like it, and it doesn't cost me anything. So it has to be a different experience for the consumer for what they're used to with Amazon. But as you say, big organisation, deep pockets, if there is someone who can probably invest that time. But at what point will they go, when are we going to start seeing a return, and perhaps it isn't worth the investment?
Yeah, because they're not charging dealers over here at the moment, are they? They've been running for, what did he say it was, 13 months, and they haven't charged dealers a penny. But they've
only got about 30 dealers on it, and we walked over to a Mitsubishi stand, which is a rare thing, isn't it? And they said they're a small company over here and they've got 250 dealers or something like that. Yeah. So 30 across the whole of America on Amazon Autos is not a lot, really.
But we did publish a story, as you say, saying that they're coming to the UK. We did approach Amazon for a comment, and they did finally get back to us, John, after saying that the inbox I sent the email to wasn't monitored. They did come back to me and they said, we're focused on expanding Amazon Autos in the United States, where we're continuously adding new dealers, vehicle inventory and features for customers. While we're always exploring opportunities to serve customers in new regions, we do not have anything more to share at this time. What that says to me is it's not a no. It's certainly not a denial. That says to me that our story is correct and they'll be coming very soon.
Lovely. Over to you. Your story.
Is it my go?
It's your go.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to stick with used car advertising because we had a very interesting chat with the Car Gurus team, didn't we? So we met up with Car Gurus, and they wanted to show us some of the new things that they've been doing. And it's something that I've written about and we've talked about many times on the podcast. It's the conversational AI used car search. I genuinely think the way that we expect people to search for cars at the moment on these used car platforms, Auto Trader, etc., is a little bit archaic. We expect people to know what car they want, and actually a lot of people that seems fine for car people like us, but when you talk to people who know nothing about cars, the people who walk into my dealership, I often ask them, how did you get to the point of wanting a Skoda Yeti, a Kia Picanto, etc., before you say anything, John? And they say, well, I spoke to ChatGPT, I asked Gemini, I asked friends and family, and sometimes they said, I had one customer who came in and they had all of these questions that ChatGPT had prepared for them that to ask about that car. So having it built into a platform, I think, is really important. And that what Cargo showed us was, they call it Discover. It was the ability to go on there and ask questions in the way that you would ask a friend. Like, what car I'm looking for a reliable car. What brand should I buy? I'm looking for a car with 7 seats. What options I've got? And it was very good, wasn't it? Rapidly served up, firstly, dealer adverts, which is important, but importantly gave it context and advice. And I just feel that I genuinely think this is the future of search, but we haven't seen it in the UK yet, have we?
No. And it feels like, car gurus weren't going to be pressed on when or if it would come to the UK, but I can see that it would be relatively easy to implement. Yeah, and I think, as to your point, I agree with you. Basically, I think the way that we do search on a lot of platforms at the minute it's very specific, and that's back to what I was saying earlier. It's because used cars are very complicated, and there's lots of different variants of everything. But yeah, it is archaic. To take people that come into your dealership as an example, they've had their car written off. They need a car immediately. They're presented with a drop down that says, "Do you want a Ford, a Vauxhall, an Audi, a Volkswagen, or I don't know, anything."
Yeah, I just want with 7 seats like my last one, or I want a
for
reliable.
about £8,000. Like, where do I?
I see it a lot on the. So we've got an Impel chat function on the front of our website, and I look at the conversations that customers have had, and they're having these sorts of conversations on our website now. And AI's already, even in our small world. I mean, we've only 10 cars advertised at the moment. It's helping them decide which one on our website works. You must see it on a much grander scale.
I mean, I get excited about these types of conversations, so we may know where the winner's going to go at the end of this. But we'll have to have a good one, James. So, John, sorry. So I think, agentic search is, as you would expect, is something we're currently working on with a US car manufacturer about exactly that. That people are coming in now and they're unsure. They're not only unsure what type of vehicle they want, but actually brand as well. So brand agnostic is a big thing. So, and I think we make the customer journey, and this isn't necessarily just in the automotive world, but we make the consumer journey really tough. And difficult, and anything that can make that easier, I'm up for that. And I think the agentic approach and what car gurus are doing, you'll start seeing that happen quite quickly because the technology is now starting to get there. And again, that'll be another one that will probably start with just very simple search on the front of a website that you can just go in and just chat to it as if it was a friend, and it will point you in the right direction of vehicles. And then we'll get even better with agentic agents that says, okay, now I've got an agent that's helping me find a car. Now I need an agent that's going to help me find the best finance deal, and an agent that's going to start helping me find where I can get it delivered. There would be lots of these things, and it will just get richer and richer and richer. And the day of a website where you will go onto a website and search for things will change. You can see a world where I may just have on my phone my little agent who I just go and chat to, a bit like ChatGPT and Gemini right now, that will go off and do all of this for me.
Yes.
And so I get really excited about that. So.
Yeah, I can see the world. I can see that world and how it would work. It's just I don't think in the UK we're catching up with those sorts of things fast enough. This ability to search in this way, people are already doing it, but they're not doing it on the platforms that serve up our cars.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
John, I'll let you have a go.
I'll squeeze one more in before we end.
I have got one topic I'd just like to talk about.
Okay, all right, I'll do this quickly then. TikTok. So one of our other sessions we went to was hosted by TikTok, which is not a platform either of us use very well, is it, James?
No.
Or at all?
I actually hate it when someone sends me a TikTok and I can't look at it because I'm not on the platform.
Yep. I'm with you on that one. But there was a live stage presentation from TikTok, which was okay, but it was interesting from the point of view of, here are TikTok, an enormous social media company, probably the world's biggest in some ways at the moment, presenting to dealers saying you really need to be on our platform. And there's lots of things. I mean, they have, in the US at least, I can't speak for the UK, they have an advertising model that lets dealers push things into TikTok, I guess a little bit like an Instagram ad would be. But the main takeaway from this particular session was, slightly questionably, and I'm not sure I agree with this, you need to get every member of your dealership staff, and again, American dealers are a lot bigger and sales works a lot differently here, I think. You need to get every member of your sales team on TikTok, posting things, and because of the way that TikTok works and serves content up to random people, almost, it's a discover kind of algorithm, isn't it? The more people you have on it, the more people are going to be pushing stuff from your dealership, the more customers you're going to have. So get all of your sales team on it, get them to be pushing content. Lo-fi content is the term that was...
Yes, that was interesting.
You don't need to make these really beautiful glossy videos. Literally just do this, hold the iPhone in front of you, film a Ford Expedition, get it online, and you will see a result. And
it was realism, wasn't it? That's
It
what
was,
they were
yeah.
talking about. It was the fact that you don't have to do stupid dances or funny or funny TikToks for them to actually work. Because a lot of people, and they were saying it's not just about the youngsters. There's a lot of older generations that are using TikTok as a, and I don't know how much I believe this, but as a search engine. They were searching for dealers to work out what they were like on the platform. It's I think it's hard to invest time in TikTok. This is the thing. It does take time, and when you're producing social media for your business, knowing which platform to put it on is really hard.
Yeah, you're right. It does make me feel very old, all these TikTok things as well.
Can I wedge just one more last topic
Go
in,
on.
John? Yeah, I just wanted to talk about some of the experiences that we've had while we've been out here that have sort of blown my mind. And one of them was, two of them were to do with Tesla. The first one was we've been getting a lot of Ubers around, haven't we? And one of them we got into, I noticed at some point that the guy was not really paying much attention. And then I noticed he didn't actually have his hands on the steering wheel. And it wasn't until I started chatting to him that he was running the entire journey on fully autonomous autopilot, which I know has been a thing in the States for a while, but I've never actually experienced it. And I was amazed at how good it was. I asked him, like, how often do you use this? And his job is to drive people around. He said, well, all the time, every journey I do. He said he just turns on, and he's got the Uber app plugged into the Tesla system, and it just plumbs in where the trip's going. He presses go, and he just says he sits there. He says he has to wear sunglasses because otherwise the car knows he's not paying too much attention. I mean, I don't know how many stars you gave him, John, after that ride.
He did get a tip, but really I should have sent it straight to Elon, shouldn't I?
And the other thing that I've experienced while we're out here, again with Teslas, is the Tesla Loop. So it's that I've obviously read about that many times. It's Elon Musk's boring company that's drilled the holes. But we did that between the show halls, didn't we? You can jump in a Tesla. I think only Teslas are out through these weird tunnels, but it was strange, wasn't it? It was like going through like a kind of disco party, all the weird lights on the walls, but it was actually quite surreal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would say it was like the Blackwall Tunnel imagined by a Gen Z gaming streamer.
Yeah, exactly what it was like.
RGB lights all the way, like.
But it is so that over here, everything seems to be autonomous, doesn't it? There's so many of those cars, the Zoot cars, I think they're called, driving around, which is like weird little vans with loads of radars all over.
They look like something you'd see at the Tokyo Motor Show 20 years ago. A square box with a wheel at each corner.
But it's
very weird things.
What's amazed me is that it's live, it's happening. You can experience it. You can do it right here, right now. And that's probably one of the things that's blown me away the most. It's just it. Again, it's back to the AI subject, isn't it? It's thanks to AI that these things exist. Have you tried any of them, James?
Yeah, I've been on all of them, and it's an experience because you don't get a chance very often to be able to do those things. So, and the monorail's very good as well, going back to old school. But what surprises but what surprises me is actually when just standard taxis now is actually they've got these virtually massive TV screens on the top of them, just advertising everywhere. So I'm surprised that in the tunnel actually those walls at some point will become more like TV screens and they'll just be throwing advertising at you. But yeah, it's an experience and everyone should try it while they're here.
Yeah, it's been great. I want to get one of those Zooks, John, before we leave, because that was they just look so space age driving around, don't they?
Although our taxi driver, the one who was not really driving us but was letting the car drive, I think he said they have a habit of getting stuck at four-way crossings right in the middle, which is probably not ideal when you're sat inside it, because it's they're a bit like the Heathrow pod things, the T5 pods, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
But it's been nice, isn't it, to try and experience those sorts of things. But you wonder whether they would ever work in the UK, and then you look at some of the roads and the road markers we have, it's kind of, I just can't see it happening.
I think they've got a long way to go.
Shall
I wrap this up?
Yeah,
then?
I think you probably should.
So, James, in the middle, before I ask for your verdicts, are there any stories or things from the show that you think we should have talked about that we haven't?
Well, you've covered, I think, as I'm looking at now, we've got not only car washes, but lots of lifts and ramps. We've not touched on those, so I don't know if we want to get into the conversation
I'm sure we could do.
But no, I think that, you've covered some great stories there, that there's lots happening here, and I think The one that was interesting, there's new entrants coming in. For the first time ever, I've seen some UK businesses making their way into the US, which is quite unusual because
Yes.
it tends to be the other way. Be interesting to see how that journey happens for that business. So I think that, also from an ARDA perspective, this is the first time they've run the event midweek, which was interesting to us because normally it's over a weekend, it finishes on a Sunday.
Right.
They had feedback from a lot of the dealers saying, actually, we don't want some of our people out of the business at our busiest times. Can we run it midweek? So they've done this for the first time. So we were always interested to see what does that do to the level of attendance. And we've seen really strong attendance at the show. But I think what we haven't seen is perhaps so many business owners here. So the business owners tend to arrive at the weekends and they're not here right now. So I think that what you're finding is lots of managers are here now. They're out looking around, they're shopping. So I think the stands are busy, but it'd be interesting to see how many deals are actually done and the level of those deals compared to last year.
What would you say to those people listening or watching this who have been thinking about coming out? I mean, is it worth the trip?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not every year that it's at Vegas. It's every second year. I think it's Orlando, I think, next year. But Vegas is one of those where you can experience so much more than as you have done rather than just the show. So I would absolutely recommend it. I think there are some businesses out there that run trips for dealers. I've heard of a couple of businesses that do that. So I think it's a very valid thing to do. And if you get the opportunity, absolutely you should.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, John and I are out here for another week, so we're heading on to LA after this. We're going to be picking up a Rivian this afternoon, which I'm very excited to experience, and then we're going over to Pennsylvania next week to hopefully see one of the largest US car auctions with Cox Automotive. So those people listening and watching this will be able to see a lot more next week, won't they?
Indeed, unless we're stuck in a snowstorm, in which case we'll be showing you that live from our hotel room. So I'm going to have to ask you, who chose the best stories? Who's your winner?
I think I need to go with the search story. So I'm really sorry, and I know that's a surprise because I didn't hint at that at all.
I will chalk that up as one for me, James. Thank you very much. There's 2-2.
A US win.
A US win that should count for 2.
No, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, James. So actually, no, until we come back, it doesn't count. Well, on that note, all that's left for me to say is thank you to James for coming and joining us today.
Thank you, James. We should also thank GardX for letting us use their stand and the Xpel
absolutely.
team.
Give this Xpel product a Google because it's available in the UK very soon. It's a very interesting, it's a sort of paint protection film, isn't it? But it's like regenerative. So if you scratch it, you heat it up, it fixes itself. It's very interesting.
Are you going to put on one of their lanyards and start selling it, John?
I could, couldn't I?
Good at it.
They pay very well, James. So.
Oh God! Actually, no. Don't talk to me.
Thank you as well to James, and thank you for listening. As he says, we'll be back next week with another episode at probably some random time like this one. So make sure you're subscribed so you can be notified when that goes live. If you want to check out the stories we mentioned today, take a look in the show notes below or head to cardealermagazine.co.uk. Thanks for listening and goodbye.